What if I told you the name Africa itself might not be what you think it is? What if the identity of an entire continent was reshaped intentionally? And what if right now a silent revolution is happening to take it back? Stay with me because by the end of this video, you'll see Africa in a way you've never seen before. Africa is often spoken about like it's one place, one culture, one story. But that couldn't be further from the truth. This continent holds over 50 countries, thousands of languages, and some of the deepest histories known to humanity. Yet somehow the world sees only one version of Africa. Why is that? Who defined that version? And more importantly, who benefits from it? To understand where we are now, we need to go back way back. Before colonization, African societies had their own systems, their own names, their own identities. Civilizations like Kemet Mali, Benin, and Great Zimbabwe thrived with structure, knowledge, and influence. But then something happened. Borders were drawn randomly. Names were changed strategically, and identities were reshaped. Here's the real question when you rename a place. Do you also rename its story? Let's talk about renaming. At first glance, it may seem small, just swapping one name for another, but in reality, it's powerful. Because names carry memory. Names carry identity, names carry ownership. So when African nations began reclaiming indigenous names after independence, it wasn't just symbolic, it was revolutionary. But here's something most people don't think about. Is changing a name enough to restore identity? Or does something deeper need to happen? Take a moment and think about this. If a generation grows up knowing only the colonial version of their history, if they speak names that were never truly theirs, then who are they really becoming? This is where rebranding comes in. In recent years, Africa hasn't just been renaming, it's been reintroducing itself to the world. Campaigns from countries like Nigeria and South Africa are shifting the narrative, showing beauty, innovation, creativity, and power. From tech startups in Lagos, to fashion runways inspired by Ankara and Kente, to global music taking over charts, Africa is speaking again. But here's the twist. Is the world truly listening or just consuming the culture? Because while Africa rises in many ways, stereotypes still linger turn on international media. And what do you often see? Poverty, conflict, crisis. But that's not the full story. It never was. So why does that version keep repeating? And more importantly, who controls the narrative? Here's where things get interesting. For the first time in history, Africans don't need permission to tell their own stories. Social media has changed everything. A creator in Lagos can reach millions. A filmmaker in Nairobi can go global. A voice that was once local can now become international overnight. But with that power comes responsibility. Because if Africans don't define Africa, someone else will, and this is where art and culture step in. Not just as entertainment, but as resistance. Writers, filmmakers, and musicians are reshaping identity in real time. Take the global impact of films like Black Panther. It didn't just entertain. It sparked conversations about African identity, heritage, and possibility. Or literary voices like Even Adiyambo Owo, whose storytelling brings depth and truth to African experiences, often overlooked. These aren't just creative works. They are declarations. Declarations that say we are more than what you were told. But let's pause for a second. If Africa is reclaiming its identity, if the narrative is shifting, then what does the future actually look like? Will Africa unify under a shared identity? Or will its diversity remain its greatest strength? And here's the biggest question of all. What role do you play in shaping that future? Because identity is not just history. It's participation. It's in the stories you tell, the content you create, the pride you carry, Africa's identity is not being handed back. It's being rebuilt piece by piece, voice by voice, generation by generation. So next time you hear the word Africa, ask yourself, whose definition am I hearing? Whose story am I believing? And whose voice is missing? Because the real story of Africa is still being written. And this time it's being written by Africans. If this opened your eyes, stay with us. Because in our next video, we're going even deeper into the hidden origins of Africa's original names and what they truly meant. Subscribe, like, share, and comment.